A terrified caller thinks every cop around her is compromised, and the only detective promising safety may already be too late. This is The Rip, where one hidden fortune in Miami turns a narcotics raid into a loyalty test that almost no one survives with their conscience clean. The movie opens on Detective Velez trying to calm a frightened woman over a burner phone. She says she feels watched, like the people after her already know she reached out. Velez tells her to keep playing along, answer every call, and trust no one, but the promise sounds thin against the panic on the other end. Moments later, the city erupts around her. Car alarms, impact, chaos, and the kind of silence that tells us the warning came too late. By the time Lieutenant Dane Dumars is pulled into a federal conference room, the damage is personal. Captain Jackie is dead, and Dane is not calling it a death. He is calling it a murder. Dane sits across from federal investigators with his temper barely contained. They want to talk about corruption inside Miami police, especially the tactical narcotics team, known as TNT, but Dane only hears accusation. Jackie was his friend, his commander, or maybe something more, and every question feels like an insult to a body that is not even cold. The feds press him about cash seizures, dirty cops, and how easy it is for police to start thinking like the criminals they chase. Dane snaps back that nobody catches a cop killer from a conference room. His brother Tom is one of the federal agents, which makes the interrogation even uglier, because family knows exactly where to cut. Tom pushes on Jackie's relationship with Dane. Dane pushes back with rage, and soon the room stops being professional. They bring up Dane wearing Jackie's gun along with his own, and that detail lands like a punch. Dane explodes, Tom grabs him, and the brothers are suddenly wrestling in front of everyone for Dane. This is not an investigation anymore. It is a betrayal wearing a badge. Afterward, Dane vents to his team. He believes the feds either have nothing, or worse, they're trying to hang Jackie's murder on TNT because dirty cops make an easy headline. His people are tired, underpaid, and angry, and the department is already politically wounded after another unit, VCAT, was shut down for corruption. Dane's mood is darker than usual. He talks about hating the job, about lying awake every night thinking about time, and about Jackie's strange belief in witches. And omens, his partner Byrne tries to pull him back into motion, because grief is dangerous when a cop still has a gun and command authority. At the station, the team covers fear with jokes, loud music, and parking lot swagger. Baptistie, Salazar, Numa, Byrne, and the others trade insults like it is armor, but every conversation bends back to the same problem: money. Rumors are spreading about stash houses being hit by people posing as cops or feds. A DEA crew rolls through with heavy vehicles, and the banter turns sharp. Nobody trusts anybody. Not local police, not federal agents, not former VCAT cops. The street rumor is simple. Cartel houses are being robbed. The robbers may have badges, and Jackie may have been killed for getting too close. Then a tip comes in, money in a house in Hialeah, maybe a few $100,000, maybe enough to matter, but not enough to change the world. Dane gathers TNT without overtime, because even a crisis has a budget, and they roll out in personal cars with a money-sniffing dog named Wilbur. On the way, the number keeps shifting: 250,000, 300,000, maybe 150, and that wobble will matter later. But for now, it feels like ordinary street noise. The Hialeah house looks half abandoned, the kind of place where every window seems to be watching. A young woman named Desi answers the door, defensive but not reckless. Dane explains they have a consent search, not a warrant, and he tries not to bully her even while Wilbur loses his mind. Desi insists she is alone and has no drugs, but the dog keeps dragging everyone toward the attic. That is the first big wrong note, because the house is messy everywhere except the hidden space above them. And the dog is not reacting to narcotics, it is reacting to cash. While some detectives keep Desi talking, the others break into the ceiling and find sealed containers tucked away above the house. At first it looks like a strong seizure, then it becomes impossible. One bucket holds around 1.4 million, and the math starts multiplying in everyone's head. This is not a neighborhood stash. It is a $20 million rip. The room changes instantly. Dane sees it before the others admit it. Money like this bends people. He orders everyone to hand over their phones so nobody can quietly make a call. Baptiste takes it personally. Byrne questions the procedure, and Rowe watches the tension sharpen. Dane says this is about trust, but the order makes him look paranoid. The fight becomes procedure versus survival. They should count the money on site, call command, secure the house, and follow every rule, but calling the wrong person could bring killers, and staying too long could be just as deadly. Dane refuses to let the scene get sloppy. Yet he also refuses to fully explain himself. Outside, Hialeah officers roll up without warning. Dane and the team keep them at a distance. One of the cops in the passenger seat looks familiar, possibly ex-VCAT, which makes Byrne's alarm spike. If corrupt former cops are watching the house, then the crew may already be surrounded. But if they knew the true amount inside, TNT would already be dead. Inside, Desi gets more frightened, and the detectives start digging into why she is in the house at all. Her grandmother recently died. The property is in probate, family money is messy, and Desi may have been told just enough to become bait. On an old phone line, the house suddenly rings. Nobody wants to answer because nobody should know they are there. When they pick up, a disguised voice gives them 30 minutes to leave and says no one needs to die over 150,000. The warning cracks the whole case open. The caller knows the low number, not the 20 million, which means someone only had part of the truth. Desi begs them to listen and get out. But Dane hears a clue. The exact amount on that call has to connect to someone in the room. Byrne demands the original tip report. Dane dodges, and the team realizes there may not be one. The pressure fractures them. Baptistie wants to call his daughters and be treated like a trusted cop. Byrne thinks Dane is hiding something. Rowe is quietly measuring every lie, and Salazar tries to keep the work moving while the money keeps stacking up. Outside, the quiet street starts feeling staged, like the whole block is holding its breath. A porch light across the street begins flickering in a pattern. Rowe and another detective notice it looks like a signal, maybe Morse code, maybe a warning. The house up the block may be communicating with someone. And the detectives realize the trap is not just inside Desi's attic. Desi finally tells Rowe what she hears. She believes the cops are planning to steal the money. She says Dane told the others the house only had 150,000, and she begs Rowe to arrest her just to get her away from them. Rowe may be the only person she thinks is clean, but Rowe has his own secret role. Dane calls command at last, or appears to. He tells the major they have a Hialeah house, says they do not need SWAT, and asks for time to finish the count. But he makes the call in a way that feels performed, as if certain people are meant to overhear only the most tempting parts. Meanwhile, Byrne starts floating the thought everyone is pretending not to have. What if they take a piece? He frames it like realism, like survival, like a payout for years of being underpaid and used. But the words poison the room, because once a cop says the quiet part out loud, everyone else has to choose a side. Then the attack comes, power dies, shots tear through the house from outside, and the team scrambles in the dark. Salazar is hit but stays alive. Desi screams to be released, and the detectives fight to control panic. The money is no longer the immediate problem. The house itself has become a target. TNT pushes out and collides with armed men near the property. But the situation turns strange. The men say they are not the ones who attacked the house, and through tense translation, the cartel side seems to be backing away. To them, 20 million is painful, but not worth starting a police massacre that would bankrupt their operation. That revelation makes everything worse. If the cartel is walking away, then the attack came from someone else, likely the same badge. Connected thieves who have been ripping stash houses. The team turns inward. Dane questions Byrne, Byrne questions Dane, and Jackie's murder enters the center of the room. Because someone claims she was killed by police, accusations fly. Dane is blamed for hiding the real tip. Byrne is linked to VCAT through old contacts. Rowe's federal brother keeps circling the case, and nobody can tell who is investigating whom. The grief, the money, and the gunfire boil over until Dane and Byrne fight like enemies, while the rest of the team begs them to stop. After the fight, the house burns, and the team decides to load the money into an armored Lenko and move it to a DA-held bank near the hospital. But the plan sounds cleaner than it feels, because people are wounded, vehicles are damaged, and everyone suspects that someone has already called the wrong allies. The ride becomes the real interrogation. Dane finally turns the trap around. He reveals that Desi was allowed to hear certain things. On purpose, Byrne was allowed to think Dane might steal the money on purpose. And Rowe was nudged into carrying information because Dane knew Rowe would report what he saw. The missing Crime Stopper tip was not a mistake. There never was one. Dane invented the operation to bloody the water and see what came to the surface. Jackie had been working the stash house robberies before she was killed, and Dane believes her killers are connected to the same heist crew, now circling them, the number one. 150,000 becomes the key. Dane had given different numbers to different people, but the disguise caller used the number only one man heard. Detective Mike, who has been playing scared and loyal all night, had access to a burner, and the phone trail points at him. The mask slips, and the moving armor truck becomes a courtroom with rifles. Mike is not alone. The outside crew is tied to Matty Nix, a federal agent with his own armed team and a plan to hijack the RIP after TNT does the hard part. The absence of radio chatter, the wrong vehicles, and the lack of official support all line up. This was meant to look contained and low-key because it was never meant to be clean. Roe gets his own answer in the worst way. Nix admits enough to confirm that Jackie was finished off by someone inside this conspiracy, and Roe erupts with grief. The murder that started the movie was not random cartel revenge. It was a cleanup. Jackie found the pattern, so the people using badges to steal drug money removed her. Then sirens and headlights close in, Dane's brother and federal units arrive, and Nix tries one last pitch. He argues that everyone can write the story their way. Dead heist team, rescued money. No scandal, no headlines, but the truth is already being broadcast to people outside the truck, and Nix realizes the cover-up is collapsing. The standoff detonates into a moving gunfight. Vehicles slam, glass breaks, and the armored convoy becomes a battlefield through Miami streets. Dane, Roe, Byrne, and the surviving team fight through chaos without the movie turning them into superheroes. They're exhausted cops trapped inside the consequences of every lie told that night. Mike's betrayal ends in the wreckage, and Nix's scheme falls apart under the weight of too many witnesses and too many bodies. When the violence finally stops, Dane is left with the question that haunted the whole night. What amount of money is worth a police captain's life? The answer is nothing, but corrupt people always answer too late. In the quiet after, the survivors process the scene like people who have run out of adrenaline. Bags are zipped, weapons lowered, and dawn starts replacing emergency lights. The RIP is counted under official supervision. $20,650,000 for $180. A number so specific it feels almost absurd after all the blood and betrayal it caused. Federal agents congratulate the detectives, and the mood finally loosens. Not because anyone is happy, but because the truth survived the night. Desi is going to receive a legal share of the seizure, enough to rebuild after her grandmother's house burned, and the team agrees Jackie would be proud. Dane and Tom find their way back to being brothers, awkwardly, angrily, and with insults still doing half the emotional work. Tom knows Dane used him too, but he also knows why, and Dane knows his brother helped keep the net from closing on the wrong people. They do not become soft, they just stop swinging long enough to call it love. Dane also speaks with Desi, who asks about the mysterious letters and phrases connected to him. They are not code for the case. They are grief, the last things exchanged between a father and his son before cancer took him. The movie ties Dane's obsession with time back to that loss. The reason Sunrise matters is because sometimes surviving one more night is all a person can promise. As morning breaks, children notice the sunrise, bright and ordinary after a night that nearly swallowed everyone. Somewhere a voice calls for Jackie, and the movie leaves us with the cost of trust in a city where badges can protect, betray, or both. If you found yourself counting who knew the 150,000 number before Dane said it out loud, then keep your own evidence locker open, because the next movie may hide its villain in the smallest detail. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.